after football led to bankruptcy and almost drove him to murder.
We are talking Vince Young, who torched $35 million on private jets and endless shopping runs, to Clinton Portis, who put his faith in snakes and watched over $10 million vanish and lost over $10 million. Reality
These are the NFL players who went broke almost overnight.
Bottom in a heartbeat.
Vince Young.
First up,
Vince Young was once one of...
Back in the day, Young was electricity personified under center, a Texas legend, a high-value draft pick, and the anointed savior of the Tennessee Titans.
Just a few years later, the man who made over $35 million was completely
with a collapse
and his downfall was just as
Young's
wild
spending
as
habits
his
were
career.
absolutely
Young
unhinged.
had a serious...
Legend has it he was dropping $5,000 weekly just at the Cheesecake Factory. Once blew 15 grand on a single dinner, and literally bought every seat on a Southwest flight just for some peace and quiet.
Every seat on a Southwest Airlines flight because he wanted privacy. When it came to money, Vince Young lived like it would never run out.
However, the fatal blow came from his inner circle. He handed the keys to his fortune to an advisor and his own uncle, hiring him as manager, a move that backfired casually. Once the bankruptcy papers were
filing for
the skeletons
bankruptcy,
came out faked
Young
signatures,
discovered
shady
forged signatures,
and unauthorized
mystery
deals,
investments,
including a $600,000 payout to a business he had never even heard of. Come 2014, Young had no choice but to file Chapter 11, admitting to debts climbing toward $10 million. It was a gut-wrenching
It was a stunning
nosedive
fall for a man once
talent
considered the NFL's next superstar. After football, he tried to rebuild.
Post-retirement, he scrambled to pivot, taking gigs with the University of Texas, working the broadcast booth, and launching a steakhouse. Now, let's look at another gridiron great who lost his shirt instantly.
Clinton
Portis.
Clinton
This guy
Portis
was
one of the NFL's most electrifying running backs,
who raked
a star
in
for the Broncos and Redskins who made...
Yet, a toxic cocktail of terrible investments, high-rolling lifestyle choices, and predatory financial sharks left him with empty pockets.
Everything.
In his prime,
at his peak, Portis was
a force of nature,
a record-breaking
stacking up
athlete
records
with
alongside
houses,
of
cars, and
luxury
cash to
rides
match.
and mansions. But behind the curtain, the bank account was bleeding out rapidly. He put his
pour
faith
millions
into advisors
into
and
shady
buddies,
deals,
Janesh
including
Brahmhut
a fraudulent
and Jeff
casino
Rubin, who talked him
investment
into sinking
and a
millions into
Ponzi-style
garbage ventures.
scheme. By
Like
the
a
time
bogus
Portis
casino
found
and a
out,
classic
over
Ponzi setup.
10...
By the time Portis caught on, more than $10 million had evaporated, siphoned off via forged docs and secret transfers. And honestly, his own spending habits didn't help the situation. He was snapping up real
handed
estate,
out credit cards
hosting
to friends,
legendary
and covered
bashes,
bills for strangers.
tossing credit
When it all
cards
came
to his
crashing
crew,
down, he
and
owed
paying
money to
bills
the
for people
IRS,
he barely
casinos.
knew. When the house of cards collapsed, creditors were knocking the IRS, casinos, 4 different women for support, and heartbreakingly, his own mom, to the tune of 500 grand because an advisor leveraged her home behind his back. Portis later
At one
confessed
point,
the rage
Portis
was so
admitted he
consuming
was
he
so
actually
angry
plotted to
he
kill the
considered
men who
murdering
robbed him.
the people
The only
who
thing
stole
that stayed
from
his
him.
hand
The only
was
thing
thought
that
of his
stopped
4
him
boys.
was...
He filed for bankruptcy in 2015 with a humiliating $150 to his name. These days, Portis has reinvented himself as a mentor, using his nightmare as a lesson for others,
and
flipping
openly
the
sharing his story.
This
On the other hand,
legend
this
found
next
himself
NFL
so
player
deep
owed
in
so
the
much
hole.
money that he went
went
broke
bust
instantly.
in the blink of an eye.
Bernie Kosar.
Bernie Kosar was arguably the sharpest mind on the field during his era. A hometown icon who brought a title to Miami and made the Cleveland Browns actually feared.
But years after retirement, the same man who once read defenses like a genius couldn't read the fine print on his own finances. By 2009,
Kosar was drowning in red ink. Legal filings revealed a grim picture: assets hovering between $1 and $10 million, but liabilities crushing him at over $50 million. The ledger was ugly.
He owed $3 million to his ex-wife, $1.5 million to the Cleveland Browns, and another $9 million tied up in bad real estate investments.
His steakhouse empire had already folded, his marriage imploded, and debt collectors were circling like vultures. He initially tried Chapter 11 to reorganize and stop the bleeding, but the hole was too deep.
Hoping to fix
the court
things,
converted
but his situation
it to Chapter
was
7
beyond
liquidation.
repair. It was later
Meaning they
converted
sold
to
off
Chapter
everything
7
he owned
liquidation,
just to pay
meaning
pennies
his
on the
assets
dollar.
were...
While his bank account disintegrated, his physical health was following suit. Decades
broken
of punishment
fingers,
left
two
him
busted
with
wrists,
discs,
and a hip that
smashed
needed replacement.
fingers,
In one
broken
interview,
wrists,
Kosar
and a
walked
hip
through
that
his
needed
mansion
swapping
barefoot.
One interview captured a haunting scene, Kosar shuffling through his mansion, barefoot and limping, teeth soaking in a cup, a living testament to the brutality of the game. Moving on, let's talk about the star who went from debt to a cell. Then there is the story that rattled the entire sports world. Michael Vick. He was a once-in-a-lifetime
Michael
talent.
Vick was
The top
supposed
pick,
to be a
the fastest
generational
arm and
talent,
legs in the game,
first overall
and paid
pick,
like a king. But his narrative swerved into one of the darkest chapters in league history.
Vick's $130 million contract with the Atlanta Falcons vanished overnight when authorities discovered his role in an illegal dogfighting operation.
He copped a plea, served 21 months in federal lockup, and watched his salary, sponsorships, and good name turn to dust.
For
From
Chapter
his prison
11
cell.
bankruptcy,
Vick filed
listing
Chapter 11, staring
$17.6
down
million in
$17.6
debt.
million
His money
in
was
debt.
gone,
The
some
cash was
stolen
gone,
by
stolen
shady
by
advisors,
crooks,
some
blown
wasted on bad
bets,
investments,
or frozen
and
by
some
lawsuits.
tied.
When he finally walked free, his empire was ashes. But instead of vanishing into obscurity, Vick pulled a move nobody saw coming.
Back to work, signing
landing
with
a
the
deal with the
Philadelphia Eagles in 2009. He clawed his way back into the league, earning nearly $57 million over the next 5.
Living on a tight allowance. He channeled almost every dime toward his creditors. By 2017, Vick had repaid $17.4 million, clearing 99% of what he owed.
Even his bankruptcy trustee called it remarkable, something that happens in 1 out of 100 cases. Vick later said, "I didn't want to stiff people."
Finally, we've got the defensive beast who went bust, largely due to romantic entanglements and business flops. Warren Sapp. Sapp raked in around $40 million,
earned an estimated $40 million over 13 NFL seasons, won a Super Bowl, made 7 Pro Bowls, and was inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yet, by April 2012, this Hall of Famer was filing Chapter 7, admitting to a $6.7 million mountain of debt. The financial drain was a
child
mess of
support,
divorce
failed
payments,
real estate projects,
overdue
and
child
overspending.
support,
Bankruptcy
real estate
forced him to
nightmares,
liquidate
and just
$645
plain
million
living too
in
large.
assets.
When the money ran out, he had to auction off $6.4 to $5 million of his life, waving goodbye to 240 pairs of Jordans valued at $6,000, a $2,250 timepiece, a literal lion skin, and a massive nude painting. Even the jewelry that defines a career, his Super Bowl and Miami championship
before
rings
bankruptcy,
hit the auction block.
Sapp
Before the crash,
earned
Sapp was pulling in
$45,000
per month talking football.
as an
But creditors
NFL
seized
network
those checks,
analyst,
and
but
the network
that
put him on
income
blast
was
once the news
garnished.
broke. Living like a king and acting untouchable only made the fall harder. Debt collectors swarmed him, leaving Sapp in a panic. Though he luckily dodged any time behind bars, the damage was strictly to his bank account.
These days, as a graduate
Sapp brings
assistant
home
coach for the Colorado
$150,000 a year,
Buffaloes,
helping coach
mentoring
the Colorado
young
Buffaloes,
players and
teaching the
rebuilding
next generation
his life.
while trying
On
to
the
piece
other
his own
hand,
world back
this
together.
next
Switching gears, let's talk about a guy who lost his shirt because he bet big on a business that went totally belly up. Enter Mark Brunell.
primarily
Brunell
with the
ground out
Jacksonville
19 seasons as a
Jaguars,
quarterback,
earning over
mostly
$50
running the show for the
million in
Jacksonville
career
Jaguars,
earnings, despite his
stacked up
success
over
on the
$50
field,
million
including
in salary
3
along
Pro
the way.
Bowls.
You'd think a resume with 3 Pro Bowls, 4 playoff runs for Jacksonville, and a Super Bowl ring as Drew Brees' wingman would set you up for life. But terrible investments and shaky financial moves drained his accounts dry. By 2010,
decisions
while still
in
suiting up for the Jets,
2010,
Brunell had
still
to
on
file
the New
for
York
Chapter 11
Jets
protection,
roster,
admitting
Brunell
he had
filed for
$5.5
Chapter
million
11
in
bankruptcy,
assets, fighting against a
listing
staggering
$5.5 million
million
in
debt. The bottom fell out mostly because of real estate and business gambles that got absolutely crushed when the housing market tanked in 2007. He poured $11 million
Brunell had
into a
invested
luxury condo
$11
development
million
with old
in a
teammates
high-end
Joel Smeenge and
condominium
Todd
project
Fordham under a
with
banner
former
called
teammates
Champion
Joel
LLC,
Smeenge and
which
Todd
evaporated
Fordham
when the
through a
property bubble
company
burst.
called.
On top of that, he torched $9 million trying to run 12 Whataburger franchises around Jacksonville, plus a handful of other real estate deals that went nowhere.
Along with other
his
smaller
name
real
on
estate
personal
ventures,
loan guarantees
and
living
and
way
overspending
beyond
compounded his
means
debt.
just
The bankruptcy
snowballed
filing
the
triggered
problem.
multiple.
Filing for bankruptcy opened the floodgates for lawsuits. and he was forced to unload his Florida mansion for $9.5 million just to stop the bleeding. Former front office guy Michael Vick noted that Brunell's financial ruin happened partly because he was too nice and trusted the wrong people with high-stakes
we have an
deals.
NFL player
a legend who went broke chasing a dream he actually loved. Deuce McAllister. McAlister was an absolute beast for the New Orleans Saints, racking up $70 million across an 8-year career that included 2 trips to the Pro Bowl.
But leading the Saints to multiple playoff
career best
McAlister went broke due to a failed business venture. In 2009, McAlister's Nissan dealership
Back in 2009, his Nissan dealership in Jackson, Mississippi, went under and filed for Chapter 11 after he stopped paying the loans. Word is he owed the manufacturer over $6.6 million plus another $300,000 in interest.
When the dealership collapsed led to multiple lawsuits
costing him his home in
the loss of his
Louisiana,
home in Luling,
and shrinking his net worth from millions
and a significant drop in net worth.
From this financial wreck happened right after injuries had already put a cap on his earning power in the league. In 2005,
$50.1 million contract with the Saints, including $12.5 million,
which came with $12.5 million in
5 games into the
bonuses.
deal.
Just 5 games later, he blew out his right ACL, managed to bounce back for over 1,000 yards the next season, only to tear his left ACL in 2007. The Saints released him in 2009 to save salary cap
and he
space,
retired shortly
and he hung
after.
up his cleats.
McAlister's
but the bankruptcy wasn't just stemmed not only
from
also
the failed
by burning cash too
but
fast
also
and
from
managing
extravagance.
money. Since leaving the gridiron, McAlister has reinvented himself, working the booth for Saints radio, analyzing college ball, and consulting for athletics at St. Martin's Episcopal School.
As an athletic consultant
get ready
at
for
St. Martin's Episcopal School. Up next, we have an NFL player whose spending addiction ultimately led to his
Andre Rison. This guy hauled in over $20 million, made 5 Pro Bowls, snagged a Super Bowl ring, and built a brand as one of the most electric receivers to ever play the game. But it only took a few years
but within
for
a
it
few
all to
years,
vanish
he lost
because
everything.
Rison
spent money like the league would never end.
He bought 8 Ferraris,
34.
He collected 8 Ferraris, 34 Mercedes-Benzes, 14 BMWs, and dropped over $1 million just on chains and watches, all while partying with a 40-person entourage and blowing tens of thousands at the club. Then, in 1994, his $2 million mansion went up
burned
in
to the
flames
ground after his then-girlfriend
Lisa Lopes
from
TLC
set it on fire
during the fight. Even that disaster didn't pump the brakes. He kept handing out tens of thousands to friends and funding a massive crew until the money finally ran out in 2007. Crushed by debt and unpaid child support. Rison filed for bankruptcy and
he
owned up to
admitted it himself,
saying
some guys
get
had a
hooked on
gambling problem,
but he got
I
hooked
had a
on
spending.
He admitted he'd stumble home from the club and pass out with $10,000 in cash scattered on the floor. And at his peak, he owned more vehicles than your average car lot.
When you have cash, you create debt.
You create debt.
On the other hand, this next NFL player went broke
because of the
2008 financial crisis.
Honestly,
and the reason,
Dermontti Dawson. We're talking about one of the best centers in history, a 7-time Pro Bowler, 3-time Lineman of the Year, and the rock of the Steelers line for 13 years.
Several
After calling it
business
quits in
ventures,
2001,
developing
Dawson
housing
pivoted to real estate
projects and
jumping into
shopping
development
centers
deals for
across
housing and
Kentucky.
shopping malls
For
all
a
over
while,
Kentucky,
it looked
which
like
a
the
solid
perfect
retirement
second
plan at
act.
first. But when the economy imploded in 2008, the floor fell out, property values nosedived, loans went unpaid, and because Dawson was a minority partner with personal guarantees, he was on the hook without any control. By 2010,
left him with
the Hall of
massive
Famer
personal
who used to make
guarantees and zero
$4.2
control.
million
By
a
2010,
season,
the
was
Hall of
buried under
Famer who
nearly
once earned
$70 million
$4.2
in
million a
liabilities.
year
He had to file for Chapter 7, listing a tiny $1.4 million in assets, including a Rolex, a golf cart, a piano, and absurdly, a $10 ownership stake in the family dog.
And
Meanwhile,
and even a $10 stake in his daughter's
developers
mixed
in
breed
Kentucky
dog.
were
Meanwhile,
chasing him
Fifth
down
Third
for
Bank and
millions
several
in
Kentucky
judgments
development
and
groups were
defaulted
coming
loans.
after him.
Eventually, he had to leave the state entirely, moving out to San Diego to start from scratch as a sales executive.
Moving
Finally,
on, we have an NFL player whose 9 kids with 9 different women completely drained his bank accounts, leaving him broke.
Travis Henry had it made star power, millions in the bank, and a bright future as a Pro Bowl back, but his personal life was an absolute train wreck. By the time he
By
hit
age 30, Henry had 9 kids with 9 different
separate
women,
mothers,
and the child support payments were $170,000 but when the money stopped.
Once the NFL checks stopped coming, the lawsuits started piling up. Henry tried to tell the courts he was broke, but the judges weren't listening to any excuses. He fell behind by $16,600
and landed in jail.
and
His
ended up in a jail
$25
cell.
million
Even his $25
contract
million
with the
deal
Denver Broncos
couldn't
didn't save him either.
Since he only saw about $6.7 million
before getting cut.
Then the narcotics indictment hit like a freight train. Ironically, the guy who used to chuckle during rookie symposiums about dodging bullets had become the poster child for self-destruction.
Henry
living
confessed
that
to a
exact
catastrophic
cautionary
unforced
tale.
errors, Henry admitted
women
he
who
made
lied about
mistake
contraception
after
and torching
mistake,
his bank
trusting
accounts on
women
flashy
who
jewelry
said
and
they
whips
were on
while
birth
ignoring
control,
every red flag.
spending.
I spent money like a man, making up for a lifetime of having nothing, he revealed. Today, he is destitute, unemployed, and dodging heat from 9 separate legal judgments.
From
With
9
Henry's
different
kingdom
court
in
orders,
ruins,
Henry's
we
empire
turn to a
had
Baltimore
collapsed.
legend.
Up
who
next,
crashed so
we have an
hard, he
NFL
ended up
player who
crashing
went
in his
so
childhood
broke that he had to move
Chris
back in with his
McAlister.
parents.
At his peak, McAlister was a nightmare for quarterbacks, a first-round savage, a 3-time Pro Bowl selection, and a legitimate Super Bowl victor.
And
Back
Super
in
Bowl
2004,
champion. In
the Ravens backed up
2004,
the
the
Brinks truck,
Baltimore
handing
Ravens
him a
gave him a
7-year deal
7-year,
worth
$55 million contract,
including a
with a $10 million
signing
signing
and another
bonus,
$7.5
and another
million just for
$7.5
being on the
million.
roster. He had the world on a string: cash, clout, and elite skill. Yet, in the blink of an eye, the bank account hit zero, the job vanished, and he was back bunking with mom and dad. By
2011, McAlister had filed
paper in
court
legal
papers
filings
admitting
that the
he had
coffers were
no
empty,
income,
the
no
savings were gone,
and that his
his
parents
folks were the only
paying for
reason
his
he had a
food
roof
and
and a hot
housing.
meal. His sworn testimony was heartbreakingly blunt. I have been out of work since 2009. I reside in my parents' home. They cover my essential survival costs.
Trying to lower his
$11,000
a month
child
support
support
payments to his
obligation to
ex-wife, Marlene.
His ex-wife,
the
who
same
once
woman
alleged he
who had
kicked her
once
to the curb
accused
for
him
refusing
of
to
kicking
terminate a
her out of
pregnancy.
his.
Insiders suggested he incinerated his wealth through non-stop nightlife, zero impulse control, and financial moves that went belly up.
He was
got
even
so bad,
forced
he had
to
pawn
sell
his
his
Super Bowl
rings
just to keep the
to
lights
stay
on.
afloat.
Shifting gears.
On the other hand,
let us talk
this
about a
next
defensive beast
NFL
whose
player
portfolio
made some
mismanagement destroyed his
seriously
life.
bad investment
Luther Elliss.
decisions.
Luther Elliss. Luther Elliss was not just a player. He was the beating heart and soul of the Detroit Lions defensive line.
The
As a
most
two-time
respected
Pro
players
bowler and
on
first-round
and off
talent,
the field.
he
Between
commanded
2000
immense
and
respect.
2004,
Between the
he
year
earned over
2000 and
$11.6
2004
million.
He
He had a
raked in
$1 million
over
home,
$11.6
luxury
million.
cars.
He lived the dream with a $1 million mansion, exotic rides, and status in the Motor City. But practically overnight, Elliss went bust, lost multiple properties, and survived on handouts from his congregation. The financial bleeding began the moment he hung up his cleats.
The downfall
Elliss dumped his
started
savings
after
into
retirement.
doomed startups,
Ellis poured
real
his
estate
fortune
flops,
into
and a
failed
manufacturing
business
outfit
ventures,
known as
real
Trinity
estate.
Armor. Ignoring expert counsel, he chased high-yield mirages, convinced that making a bigger fortune would allow him to be a bigger philanthropist. That
More
gamble
to give
backfired
more.
spectacularly.
Instead, he lost
By
nearly
2009,
everything. By
Elliss and his
2009,
spouse filed for
Ellis
Chapter
and his
7,
wife had
revealing
filed
a staggering
Chapter 7
$18 million
bankruptcy,
debt load
listing
against just $4
$138 million.
in assets. It was actually $0.4 million in debt. The balance sheet was a disaster zone. They were on the hook for $37,000 in back taxes, drowning in tuition fees, and had just surrendered their Utah residence to the bank. The final nail in the coffin was a
$524,000 civil judgment from that foreclosure
slapping
was the
him
final
with a bill
blow.
for
Their $1.6 million Michigan home was also
$0.6 million Michigan estate was also sinking, owing huge money on a property that had plummeted to an $800,000 value. The local hero who once signed jerseys was now standing in line at food pantries. They really came
stepped
through
in
when
big
we had
time
nothing.
to help
Ellis
us.
shared,
Ellis said,
visibly humbled.
humbled
He
by
owned
the
his failure,
support. He
citing
admitted
ego
his
and
mistakes,
poor decisions rather
greed,
than the usual
pride,
suspects of
and
casino,
bad judgment.
narcotics,
It wasn't
or
gambling.
mistress. He confessed, "It was me thinking I was the smartest guy in the room." With 11 mouths to feed, including 6 adopted kids, Ellis had to swallow his pride and rebuild from scratch.
No
he
choice
learned the
but to
hard
start
way
over.
what
This
the
time
league
with a lesson
fails
most
to
players
teach.
learn too late.
Those
The NFL
gridiron
money
checks
never lasts
stop
forever.
clearing
Moving on,
eventually.
we have an
Next on the list, we have a cautionary tale about blind trust, an icon whose faith in business partners led him straight to insolvency. Watch Johnny Unitas threading the needle to Raymond Berry in the end zone. You are looking at the man who set the gold standard for consecutive touchdown passes. Unitas was not merely a quarterback. He was the prototype of American football royalty. The Golden Arm did not just play the sport, he revolutionized it. We are talking about a 3-time MVP, 4-time champion, the man who helped make the NFL what it is today. But when the cheering stopped, but when the stadium lights dimmed, the titan of the turf struggled to navigate the real world. Unitas dove headfirst into the corporate sector, and that is where the wheels fell off. In 1984, he and 2 partners took out a $3.5 million loan to buy an electronics company called National Circuits Inc. It was supposed to be It was billed as a slam-dunk second act. Instead, the venture imploded, and the company went belly up because Unitas had signed his own name to the loans.
The bag.
He was on
By
the hook when the debt mountain
1991,
grew.
the Hall
By
of Famer
1991,
was bankrupt.
the Hall of
The
Famer
bank
was insolvent,
filed liens
watching
on
the
his
bank
home,
freeze his accounts
froze
and
his
slap liens
checking
on
and
his
savings
residence. 18 seasons of hard-earned wealth evaporated into thin air. Tragically, this electronics disaster was just one in a series of financial train wrecks. Before the circuit board
Unitas
fiasco,
had already poured money into
burned
bowling
cash on bowling
alleys,
lanes,
a prime
rib
rib
joint that
restaurant
folded
that shut
instantly,
down
a
almost
freight
immediately,
operation,
a
and
freight
sour
company,
real estate deals.
and real.
In his prime, Unitas pulled in $250,000 a year, a king's ransom back then, but that nest egg was defenseless against the army of creditors hunting him down. By the time he died,
By the time he passed away in
the
2002,
situation was so
much of
dire
the
that the
unpaid
taxpayers
debt
of
had
Maryland
been covered by
ultimately
Maryland
ended up absorbing
taxpayers.
much of
And
his
finally,
unpaid
we have an
obligations.
NFL.
Finally, we examine the case of Charlie Batch, a player whose real estate ambitions turned into a financial nightmare.
Found
Despite a
himself in
respectable
financial
15-year grind
trouble
as a reliable
despite
backup
a
for the Pittsburgh
15-season
Steelers and
NFL
2 championship
career
rings.
and 2
Batch
Super
hit a
Bowl
wall.
rings.
In December
2010,
he was forced
Batch
to file
filed
for Chapter 7 protection.
7.
His filing exposed a grim reality. $8.3 million in debt against only $2.3 million in assets, mostly stemming from his firm, Batch Development Company, Inc.
Batch
His
Development
property
Co. His real estate ventures
crumbled,
collapsed, including a default on a
triggered
$1.15 million mortgage, which left 25 properties.
$0.15 million mortgage, which forced him to hand over 25 properties to a receiver. Yet, amidst the financial wreckage, Batch managed to shield his most personal treasures.
Memorabilia
Through a June
were
2011
spared after
settlement with
bankruptcy
creditors like Premier
proceedings
Capital,
in
who
June
were owed
2011,
$800,000.
with
He successfully
agreements
fought to
reached
keep
with
his Super Bowl
creditors
rings,
like
his
Primark
primary
Real
residence,
Estate Fund,
and
who
his
had a claim
memorabilia.
on
His legal team fought tooth and nail to ensure those priceless mementos were not auctioned off to the highest bidder. Unlike
from
most stories on this
lavish
list,
personal
Batch did not blow his cash
He invested
on toys.
heavily
He went
in
broke
his
trying to
community,
rebuild his
particularly
hometown of
Homestead,
Pennsylvania, funding renovation
renovating
projects
buildings,
and youth camps.
running.
Those closest to him describe a sharp, grounded individual whose heart was in the right place, a stark difference from the usual tale of athletes burning cash on reckless luxuries. Going broke didn't end his romance with the gridiron. Instead, he reinvented himself behind the mic for the Steelers, breaking down the action as a pregame analyst, calling the preseason plays, and anchoring the postgame broadcast. His journey serves as a stark warning to everyone, proving that even the sharpest, most charitable players can lose it all when business deals go south. However, with the right strategy and legal safeguards, you can defend your hard-earned legacy. What is your take on his comeback? Drop your opinions down below. And make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe on NFL Rivals to stay locked in for our future uploads.